surname. I'll let you introduce yourself, Dave.
Dave Jacob-Lloyd, 3 first names. So always had issues with that one. Yeah, nice to be on the call.
Oh, lovely to have you. And you're from a brand new charity called It's Time. Could you just tell us a little bit about It's Time, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course. So we are a very new charity. We're about 2 weeks old. Well, we launched 2 weeks ago, and we were born to help young adults. So we're focusing on kind of 16 to 30-year-olds who've experienced parental loss. So it could have been before they were 16 or during that time period, because they have a very kind of specific set of needs, varied needs, but all kind of are going through that adulting phase of life, and then have another thing to deal with, which is about as traumatic as you can deal with at that age. So yeah, there's 7 trustees, including me, and we've got 3 advisors and some volunteers, and everyone's been through the same kind of experience, and yeah, it's been really good. We've had loads of great conversations and people messaging us, and yeah, we've only just got started, so yeah, looking forward to yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I understand that you've been kind of moved to set up this charity because of your own experiences, Dave.
Yes, so I lost my mom about 6 weeks into my first year of university, 6 or 7 weeks. She had breast cancer from when I was 15 to 16, 17. Then it went away, and then it came back and it got into her lungs and things like that. So she sadly passed away kind of late 2011 when I first started university. And yeah, like I guess I experienced quite a lot of different ways of trying to deal with it. Some with varying success. And yeah, I as the years rolled by, I felt like I wanted to do a charity, but I didn't feel ready to do it. And then probably last summer, I felt like I was ready to, and in the right place myself, to be able to start setting up the charity. And I felt it was a bit of a wasted opportunity to just go through something sad, have really valuable lessons and experience, and then not giving it back. I like trying to fix things. So
it's really admirable, Dave, really admirable. I'm so sorry for your loss, because I think losing a parent at any time in life is incredibly difficult, especially if they've been a good one. But yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss, and trying to navigate your very early adult years and beyond without your mum must have been incredibly difficult.
It was, and I think there's obviously no good time to lose anyone, but when you're there's a big transition into going to university, you're making new friends. They're great friends, but you don't know them that well. They don't know you, and everyone's just trying to have fun, right? So in that kind of time, and I knew that
very different mindset.
Exactly, yeah. And I kind of knew that, like, I was around, I was always out and about with people, but I knew what was going to happen at some point in that term, probably.
Yeah.
And it was really tough, kind of like almost acting happy, and sometimes being happy, which felt quite strange, but it's fine to also, feel happy in certain moments. But it was the 2 completely different worlds, right? You go from everyone being freshers, all from being around the world or going on nights out together and meeting new people and all the excitement that you get out of university in the first year of it. And then driving home the next day, early morning, to go and see my mum, who was then in Mighton Hospice in Warwick, who were amazing. And knowing what was going to happen, it was such a strange kind of like, I remember going back home for my birthday. It was the last time my mum ever went home. And then I drove back to university. I wanted just to go back to my room and just to chill, but my friends had organised a thing, and then everyone was like, "Oh, why aren't you looking so happy?" I hadn't told anyone, and it was a really strange experience.
Oh, that's very tricky.
I think a lot of the time people do get through it, right? And it's just, we're here to try and help people understand that sometimes it's okay to be okay, sometimes it's okay to feel sad, sometimes it's okay to have to get either just like peer-to-peer support or professional support, which I've had a couple of different examples of. and I benefited from talking. That's a thing that maybe I didn't do as much of before.
Okay, so I guess the fact that you've been moved to start this charity, and it's an admirable thing to do, and I'm excited to see where this goes, because you've got the potential to help so many people. But there must be, the back of my mind thinking, well, perhaps Dave didn't have the experience or the support he would have wanted, and he's trying to make sure that this is different for other young people in future. Could you tell me a little bit about what you think was missing and what you'd aim to try and do to support people going through this, either now or in future?
Yeah, good shout. So yeah, the answer is yes, and that's kind of I guess the reason why I really wanted to start a charity was because I didn't feel massively supported. So when I was at school, when my mum was very ill, I got called out for not dealing with it as well as someone else in the classroom, in front of the classroom, which was
They
not
compared you to someone else who is losing a parent too.
Yeah, well, who had an ill parent. So not that there's a textbook way of doing things, and some people are just more likely to react in certain ways. So that was quite hurtful, and it just didn't help. Everything anyone at school, anyone who's a teacher, anyone at university should just be trying to help. It's
not shame.
Not shaming you for something that wasn't bad. It was just, you missed a couple of lessons because, didn't ask me why I missed them. I could have been, I can't remember exactly what I was doing. I think I was probably supporting my mom doing something, maybe going to the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's those opportunities to make moments and make memories whilst you can, which is so powerful and so important. Going to history lesson is not nearly as important at that time in your life.
It's not. It is important still, but it's not nearly. It's very difficult to get that balance right. So ideally you wouldn't probably could be going to school, but you do need to crack on. Is that one of the things I do tell people is, although it feels hard, you do have to keep pushing forward. Otherwise, you will just get stuck or go into a negative spiral, which is not what you want. So that was school, and that was tough being that young and someone telling you that who's, teachers are supposed to be people that
they're supposed to be grown-ups.
All they know everything, right? Apparently. So, that was quite difficult. And then when I was at university, it would have been about 2 weeks after my mum passed away. So,
oh gosh.
I went to, I emailed my personal tutor, which for people that haven't been to university, they are essentially your pastoral carers. They're supposed to help you with any challenges you have or anything like that. And he just didn't reply to me once, including pleading for help, probably 15 emails, 10, 15 emails, things like that.
Oh my gosh, that's negligent, isn't it?
It is. And I think at some point, as part of this charity, I'll be going back because 3 of the trustees all went to my university, which is called Loughborough, and me and one of the other trustees lost our parent while we were at university, and both experienced a lack of support. Okay. So we want to go back and help them to help people like us, because it's an environment where you can get lost in the size of the place.
But in terms of, I'm a psychologist, in terms of if your mental health or that person's mental health hadn't gone so well, and basically you've sent 15 emails begging for some support or help and they haven't responded to you, that's not great, is it?
It's not. And we had to write a safeguarding document for the charity, and you wouldn't get a safeguarding document.
No, they certainly didn't follow those protocols.
And I think that's the whole point of the charity, is that just because so I was 20 at the time, so just because you are an adult doesn't mean that you're ready to, you can't do these things on your own.
Absolutely.
No one's going to help you at university. Yeah. And then I booked in.
You are technically an adult, but of course, what I know as a psychologist is that your brain is not fully developed until sort of age 25, so you can't be expected to make the same sort of reasoned, judgment calls and, holding it together and logic and balance and all of that someone much older would be able to do. That's just, you're just not ready. You're not capable of doing that.
Exactly. And I definitely felt that. And even with that being said, I was doing relatively rational things like asking for help from the person that's supposed to be my pastoral care at university.
Yes, well done you. That should have worked. That should have worked.
And
if this person, if this tutor had replied to say, oh, Dave, like, I don't know what I can do. I'm not great with grief, actually, but there's a really great charity called It's Time Charity who support exactly people like you. Do you think you would have reached out to It's Time Charity?
I think I would have, at the time, I would have reached out for to look at the content, like to
check the website.
So you can like look at the video, you know, just understand how other people are dealing with it, and almost the bit that I didn't feel was like, where's the other side? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And having people speak about the fact that they've been through it and now they're doing well in life and having a nice time, is that would have been very comforting at the time. Probably would have helped me understand, because I always thought I needed to be sad, so I'd always like retreat to watching sad true story films or sad songs that I knew wouldn't, you know, make me cry or things like that, and I thought that's what I needed to do. It wasn't always the fact that I was sad. I was making myself sad because I thought that's what I should be doing because I'd lost my mom. Which sounds a bit strange now, but as we've said, there's no kind of right or wrong way to deal with it. And as soon as I got out of that cycle, which was a long time, that was a number of years, you know, I felt much better because I wasn't dragging myself back into that kind of thought pattern.
Absolutely. You know, and I often see it conversely, that people sort of almost have to give themselves permission to live an enjoyable life, and that they're not getting those bits where they do feel like they're enjoying life, because it feels like, oh shit, yeah, I shouldn't be. But it sounds like you were managing, but I guess it's difficult, isn't it? Because you were in a new environment. And I think sometimes with grief, when, you know, perhaps your mum had never been to your uni at all with you, so you're kind of not noticing her absence in the same way, whereas if you'd been in the family home, that might have been, you know, harder to have those enjoyable moments, if that makes sense, because her absence would have been everywhere.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, she hadn't actually been to my uni. She was very involved she wanted to take me around the other uni. She was a lecturer at College University in occupational therapy, so she was all very for universities and loved. She
was all for helping you with your UCAS form.
Exactly, yeah. She loved all that kind of stuff, and I guess she probably felt that was kind of one of the things you could really impact on. So yeah, that was, and then yeah, to your point about, so I left uni, I went to London, I went to live in India for a bit, and then I moved back to the family home for the first time, and that was where I think a lot of the running away from the feelings and things like that then caught up with me, because then you're in an environment where, you know, you're walking on the same steps, you're sitting in the same seats. All of those kind of mini triggers, you know, in a daily cycle is just, and they've been held back for so long. I think maybe if I'd been living there the whole time, it may have potentially have resolved itself a bit quicker, but because I'd kind of like parked it, gone to uni, which was then a separate kind of experience, gone to live in London, gone to live in India, and then I moved back, it was then you feel almost like, okay, well, I'm moving back to something that's not as whole as it was as a home, you know, as it was before. So that was very challenging for me actually that was about 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago. So
gosh. And when you reflect on how far you've come in 4 years, and that you've set up, you know, we chatted just briefly before we came live, and you said, you know, I've wanted to do this for a while. You know, when you reflect on how far you've come in those 4 years, how does that feel?
I guess I don't really reflect on it too often. It feels good that I like to fix things, so I don't just rest on my laurels. I just go and do it. So I always knew I would do it. And I think as the years rolled by, and I kept seeing, as even people, you know, on social media, that like my friends or people I knew sharing their stories of loss and how much it was hurting them, and I'd been through the same experience of sharing a lot on social media, because I thought that was a way of kind of getting it off my chest, and then getting the kind of like, validation is the wrong word, but getting the instant feedback from people, you know, with the heart emoji on Facebook and all these kind of things, you know, and you feel like, okay, like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe things will be fine, you know. And that's
I absolutely agree with you. And I think we've had a similar parallel in that regard. So when I put together the Grief Collective book, because like you, I always knew I was going to do it. It was just when I was going to do it. But yeah, I was sharing a bit too much not a bit too much. That's not an appropriate thing to say. Is I was sharing my honest feelings about grief on social media, and people often were messaging, liking, but messaging me privately to say that's really helpful. It's really, really helped me to hear what you're going through, because I thought it was just me. So that's what provoked me to put together the Grief Collective book. But I think it is what you said. I think it is validation. It is normalization. And that's exactly who I'm aiming to support, and what I aim to do with all of my work for kind of distress easing as a clinical psychologist, really. So I think they're really powerful and really important words for grief specifically. So I think they're bang on, Dave.
I agree, and definitely, like, because they are in their raw form, like you're sat, in your bedroom or on the sofa, and you're just typing something out the way you feel at that time, and then you post it to everyone, and they can then get your raw, unfiltered kind of thoughts on that situation. And that definitely drove me to, the more and more people I met, I was thinking, this is way bigger than I thought it was in terms of numbers. So the kind of the numbers we're looking at is about approximately 15% of the UK
and that's
will lose a parent by, which is staggering, horrible.
Really staggering.
It's 1 in about 6.5.
Yeah.
Especially age of 30, which is it's still, I'm 29 now, and I still feel quite young. I may not look it, but I feel like I'm still a bit of a kind of child. And I watched the before we jumped on here, we talked about the Joey Essex program, and some of the things he was saying about maybe not moving on with some elements of your life because you don't want to, because then you're moving away from your parent that you've lost, or your parents that you've lost. Definitely resonated with me. So yeah, there's elements still that I'm working on. I think that it's impossible to not. I think it will always stay there. It's just how you grow. I saw a good diagram somewhere on social media the other day, and it was, your grief doesn't get smaller; you just grow around it.
Like I've seen the egg one.
Yeah, similar kind of thing where you
size
egg and just a bigger kind of glass around it.
Yeah, it's really nice. And yeah, I was you're 29 and I have a week left of being 39, Dave. Just a little less than a week. And it's just, I lost my dad at 36, and so in December it will be 4 years. And I think it's a real period of reflection, because I remember my parents turning 40, and I'm feeling quite old, actually. And to be here myself, and to be entering a decade, a new decade without my dad in it, it feels surreal. And strange, it's I think there's something around a new zero that evokes a natural period of reflection. And like you said, Joey Essex had done the same. So we joined him in his documentary just as he was 29 plus 1, he was saying, wasn't he? But yeah, I think he'd had a similar period of reflection that had led him to wanting to process some of the stuff that he hadn't. He spoke. I've watched 2/3 of it. I meant to finish it today and I didn't, and I really want to. He spoke about having just kind of locked it all away and not ever coming back to it. He dealt with it very differently than his sister.
And people, and that's what we've learned from all the different people we've spoken to. We've spoken to hundreds of people, and one thing that definitely came out was there's no right or wrong way to deal with it, and people deal with it in very different ways. So for instance, for me, we were just talking as a charity about Father's Day coming up on Sunday this week, and 6 of the 7 trustees lost their fathers. And actually the stat is it's double as likely that you'll lose your father by the time you're 30 than your mother. And we were just discussing about how people deal with that day, or if they deal with it, even if it's a thing for them, whether they can just crack on. And for me, obviously, for Mother's Day, it was never that bad actually for me on Mother's Day. The day that I focused a lot on up until like last year or the year before was the day that my mom passed away, which is the 30th of November. And I went away and did, as before she passed away, we were talking about, like, she didn't have an official bucket list, but like the things that she wanted to do. So I went and saw the Northern Lights up in top of Norway. I went to Thailand to watch the Lantern Festival, where you see all the lanterns in the sky. And I go back to the place that we always went to as a family, a place called Lowestoft, which is like the most easterly town in England. And I go back there because for a long time that was the only place I could really find like peace is the wrong word, but I could feel calm.
Did you have a sense of her there as well? So a sense of her and feeling calm.
And it's all positive, right? Because it's only for holiday, so it's every 2 weeks.
Yeah, of course.
So it's all a very positive feeling, and you know, going back a number of generations in that family, that was where they went. So it's got quite a big place in my heart, and I like going there to kind of calm down. Now, the last kind of year and a half, I don't need that as much, which is great. But for a long time, I had to drive. It's about 3.5 hours from where I'm from originally, which is Warwick. So it was a long way to go to and from. And then more recently, I've had to get the train there, which takes even longer. So yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare.
The mission.
A long way. But there's something very, I'm sure people have it. So for instance, my mom's not buried. So I don't have anywhere to go in that sense. And I imagine some people would like going to grave, whatever it might be, to get that calming feeling. But for me, it's over in
Lowestoft is your special place. Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's very, very, very calming to go there. Yeah. Like leveling, I guess.
I know from my experiences with a couple of my friendships, actually, with people I was going to name check here then, but I might feel a bit not okay. But no, I'm going to. They're in the Grief Collective, so I'm going to. So Hannah and Laura both lost their dads in young adulthood, and I know, along with many people in the Grief Collective as well, they found it really difficult. That it meant that their future partners didn't ever get to meet their significant other, and how you carry that story of them along down the generations. Really, is that something that's cropped up for you?
It did for a long time, for a good 5 or 6 years, and for me, you know, I had a girlfriend up until about 8 days before my mom passed away. So she was my first girlfriend. So then you end up with kind of like, you know, two of the biggest kind of female parts of your life, you know, they're not there at all, and being replaced by this big wide world of university, right? So but yeah, no, I felt that for a long time. Not so much now. I think as the years go by, you kind of start to think a bit more rationally about certain things, and those things are, you know, okay, well, it's impossible now that my mom would have met them, and that's kind of fine. It's not there's nothing I can do about it. And actually, one thing I learned from doing CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, I think that's right. Is, which I found very useful for this kind of stuff, and actually in general, I'd definitely recommend it to people, was to understand like certain patterns of behavior that I was doing that were just not helpful. So one of them was I think it was putting too much, stressing over things you can't have control over. It's like, what's the point? There's so much energy lost on stressing and worrying about things that you can't control. I can't control that my mom's not around, so I can't then control how other people react to that, and I can't control that I have met my future partner, you know, and it doesn't bother me anymore at all. But we're very aware as a charity that when you go through different kind of stages of your life, so your first baby, getting married, and all that kind of stuff, and when all your friends and family do the same thing, and people are moaning about, oh, you know, my dad's going to be in bits, that, you know, when I go down the aisle, and then, you know, some people don't have a dad, and it's just like, you know, it's and even to the point of the Father's Day and the Mother's Day, you know, getting all those emails with discount codes to Mother's Day cards, is just like, again, that's one thing with charity. It's happening a bit in some places, but we're going to definitely push and lobby companies to stop doing that. It's not.
Okay, just going to give a heads up to Moonpig, who allowed me to opt out of Father's Day communication. So they did email me a few years ago, and it said, if you don't want to hear for whatever reason about Father's Day, just click here. And they haven't emailed me again about it. So it is on people's radar, but maybe it absolutely needs to be a bit more.
Yeah, and Moonpig did the same for me as well. So
okay,
shout
well
out
done,
them.
Moonpig.
Yeah,
we're not sponsored or affiliated in any way.
Definitely not. No, but they way too expensive. But they they were one of the first ones, I think, to push it forward. But just things like that, like just mini triggers that, like, when you're back at school, and the whole jokey thing was like everyone just used to say your mom, which is what Joey Essex said as well. And like that's not ideal when she's like, probably at the time like sat having chemotherapy or things like that. So there's a load of like mini kind of triggers that people won't really understand are triggers, but it might be a song that comes on, it might be their name, especially a bit of a more rare name, like my mom's name's a bit more rare. So when I hear that name, even when I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, I see the name, I'm like, I have to go off it. And that's almost 10 years after. So there's still things that, just will probably never go away.
You don't know when they're going to come and bite you, do you?
Yeah, and that's fine. Like now I've got enough I've got enough of those kind of Maslow's hierarchy of need blocks in my life that I don't, maybe I'm not as bad as what I was dealing with certain things.
But we definitely have our ebbs and our flows. We might be okay today and not okay a little bit later. Absolutely have ebbs and flows, and that's okay. We go where we go. But so if someone is watching now or watching because they've got someone in mind and they're thinking, well, this might be a really useful charity, what should they do, Dave?
So I can give you a kind of 3-stage launch thing that we're doing. So the first stage we've done, so we did that 2 weeks ago, and that is basically trying to attract people to us through, we've got interview series. So we're interviewing people that have lost a parent, who are young adults, or who are slightly older, who have lost a parent when they were in kind of young adulthood, and that's really helped people understand how it helps you understand that there's no one way of dealing with it, and you can deal with it in many different ways. We've got a triaging, which is a bit of a fancy word to use. I shouldn't use that, but a clinical word to use. We've got a load of links on our website. So if you need help right now, there's a load of links to different places for help like Samaritans and Grief Encounter and other charities that are really amazing at and have way more resources than we do currently. So you can text them, you can ring them any time of the day for some of them, and some of them just in the daytime. So we've got that. We're going to be rolling out expert advice from people who are clinical experts, who are wellness professionals, people that can help you just improve your life as a young adult who's lost a parent or parents. And we have some help for employers. That's one thing that we definitely felt was there wasn't enough help for people that are supposed to be helping people. So we've got a small bit of help for them currently. And then the second phase is 2 things, which is going to be in September. It's going to be a help guide, a number of help guides for support networks. So for schools, universities, colleges, and businesses, employers, line managers. And that's helping them understand our lives, helping understand young adults who have gone through that loss. And we're going to be making mini online courses, very specific to young adults who've lost a parent. So things like inheritance budgeting, things like organizing a funeral, things like all the way down from those kind of really functional things down to like dating after you've lost a parent. Because, I've had a couple of experiences of not great responses to me telling my date that, I don't have that my mom's passed away. So just kind of giving pre-warnings and giving some stories and some kind of, I guess, unofficial guidance on through people's stories, essentially. And then in about this time next year, maybe a little bit earlier, we'll be, rolling out a peer mentoring system where we'll have people like myself who kind of still going through it, but have been, down and then back up in terms of, emotions and the grief cycle. process, helping people who are then going through it at the time. So if people want to do that, then we can, if you send us an email, we can have you on the list. And if people want help, then we can send you to kind of higher touch help currently, or you can just watch the stuff that we've got going on. But yeah, there's a lot going on. We've got a great team, 7 trustees, all who have been through the same experience. That we've lost our parents in different ways. We've had a load of great businesses and kind of experts who've been helping us, giving their time away for free to help us, which is incredible. And yeah, we're just hoping that we can help as many people as possible. I think we've helped a lot already, but there's a lot more to do. And then if anyone wants to get involved, we've got our first fundraising event on the 5th of September, which is a 15-mile walk. We've just added a 15-kilometre option for people that don't feel they can do 15 miles because it's a long way. And that's on the 5th of September. There's a link on our website and there's a link on our social medias and things like that. You can buy a ticket for that, and then you get a t-shirt and you can walk around wherever you want to walk around, meet up with your friends or people that you know that have been through it, and go on a walk. So there are plans currently.
There are. It sounds like you've got a real, projection of where you're going and who you're going to help and how you're going to help them, and it sounds really fantastic. What we'll do is we'll make sure that when these people might be watching live, they might be watching on replay, or they might be watching from a edited version on YouTube or somewhere or Instagram. What we'll do is we'll make sure that wherever this is posted, we've got details of the charity and how people can donate to the fundraiser if they want to.
Great, sounds good.
Thank you so much for your time, Dave. Is there anything you want to say that I haven't asked you?
No, I think we're good. I think I could probably speak for hours and hours on it. I think there's a lot of people that need help or could do with help. There's a lot of people that have helped us as a charity. So thank you to all of those people.
Can I just get you to tell people what the web address is, because it's a little quirky. I struggled. I kept getting the wrong charity. So if you could tell us what your web address is and what your social links are, then people will be able to find it. Social links might be a bit difficult. Website is just go for the web address. So the website is itstimeCharity.co.uk. So it's itstimeCharity.co.uk with no commas or anything like that in it. So that one, and then it's time on Instagram. It's Time Charity on Instagram, and the same on Twitter. And we're on LinkedIn as well, so you can find us. Perfect. And we're actually on LinkedIn as well. So we'll okay. Well, thank you so much for your time and agreeing to speak with me. I really wanted to get word of this wonderful charity. Well done to you, because this has not been, like you said, even just the policies you've had to put together. This has not been an easy process. And to look at your website, it's beautiful. So well done. Be proud. Thank you. Yeah, no, looking forward to helping as many people as possible, and thank you for the opportunity to come on and spread the word. No worries. Thank you for joining us. Right, I'm just going to end the live broadcast, then I'll catch up with you briefly just when we're off camera. Thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been lovely having you here. I'm sorry that we haven't been able to stream live from the Grief Collective page, but we have gone from Good Thinking Psychological Service, and I think we have shared the page elsewhere in the background a little bit. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for Dave for speaking so openly with such affection for your mum as well, which shone through. Lovely. Thanks, Dave. Cheers.